Chat, what is going on? Thank you guys for tuning in to another Life of Ant reaction video. Today, we are going to figure out what is the hardest sport to go pro in using a video titled, What Are the Odds to Go Pro? In my opinion, getting to the NBA, well, first off, let me say this. When I talk about going pro, I'm talking about the pinnacle. So I'm not talking about overseas football, overseas basketball. I'm talking about the pinnacle. So NBA, MLB, NFL. For soccer, it's probably the Premier League or whatever. I don't really know much about it. But I'm talking about the absolute pinnacle of the sport. And in my opinion, it has to be NBA basketball. And I say that for two reasons. Number one, you damn near have to be 6'6" to even have a chance at the NBA. So that's the number one reason is height. For example, I'm 5'10" and I'm a pretty decent basketball player. But let's say I was a 95 overall, like I was insane. My chances of even going D1 are literally basically zero. So that's the first reason. The second reason is there's only 12 people on an NBA roster. Only 12 people make it on each team versus the NFL, which is extremely difficult. Don't get me wrong. There's what, 52 people on the team? You know what I'm saying? So the roster size alone makes it extremely difficult. But chat, with that being said, I'm going into this video with the most open mind possible. I want the video to change my mind. I want it to prove to me that there's something else that may be difficult to get into. But without further ado, chat, let's hop right into the video.
This is how many men there are, at least today, on this planet. Each of these marbles represents 100,000 men. There are roughly 4 billion of us. Almost all of us, women and men, will play a sport at some point in time. Very few of us will ever make it to the pinnacle. Just how difficult is
Okay, I can agree that like everybody will play a sport in their life at least once in their life, but I feel like it doesn't even count until you play in middle school. Like if you're playing elementary school level football, basketball, soccer, whatever the case may be, like everybody does that, but it doesn't really even count, I would say, because it's just like there's no real competitiveness to it. It's just like kids playing sports, you know?
it to make it to the top? Let's start with the global game, the more literal version of football. Perhaps the most challenging sport to evaluate, as many countries do not accurately track registrations. At least one country does, and that's the birthplace, England. According to the Football Association of England, there are 68,295 registered football players that are 14 years old. Over the last 4 years,
14 is a good age to start. I would say counting that as real sport. You know what I'm saying?
246 English football players made their debuts with the English Premier League, what many consider to be the top domestic league with the most depth. We'll average that and say there are 61.5 English rookies each year. So, what are the odds of a 14-year-old making it to the top domestic league in England? About 1 in 1,110 will make it to the EPL. What are the odds of making it for the entire English male population? About 1 in every 5,639. Let's head across the pond to a game that is played on a frozen pond. Hockey. The first organized hockey game was held in 1875.
I think that hockey is a sleeper pick for one of the hardest sports to go pro in because you need to be skating. Like the entire sport is played skating on ice, and I think I don't know a single person off the top of my head that can skate well. Mind you that I am in Vegas, so you know we have a hockey team. It's a newer team for sure, but nobody really skates out here. It's not a common thing. I think that's why that sport is bigger in like Canada or just places that are colder in the United States. So I think that's definitely a sleeper pick, but I wouldn't say it's the hardest. I think if you're around skating growing up, then that kind of clears that difficulty. It's just difficult for somebody like me because we don't have a lot of cold weather. So, you know, so like I said, it is a sleeper pick for being the hardest to go pro, but it's still, I don't think it's up there with basketball, honestly.
5 in Montreal. Today, over 452,000 Canadians are registered on organized teams. Hockey is clearly the most popular sport for our brothers to the north, and fortunately, Hockey Canada provides wonderful data for youth registrations. Similar to football in England, hockey in Canada is ideal given the unlikelihood of other sports to cannibalize the best athletes. If we break this down to a single youth year, a little more than 30,000 14-year-olds are playing hockey in Canada, who is also responsible for the most NHL players, 295 on opening night. About 120 rookies make their NHL debut every year.
But you see, I think that data is so skewed might be the right word because like I said, like it's just like in America there's only select few states where they get a lot of cold weather. Like you just wouldn't grow up skating in Vegas. Like that's just not a thing. And then you wouldn't skate or ski in California, but in Canada, somewhere where it snows a lot, where there's a lot of that just in nature, it's kind of I feel like it makes the data skewed. If ice was more available everywhere around the world, I think there would be way more people into hockey and playing hockey. Like, I think that just makes obvious sense.
So if we apply this Canadian weight of 41.7%, that means roughly 50 of them will be Canadian on average each year. So what are the odds of making it to the show? At least if you're Canadian? About 1 in 613 if you're playing youth hockey. If we look at all 14-year-old males, those odds are about 1 in every 4,371.
Those
How
odds aren't
about
that bad.
America's pastime? Baseball. There are nearly 9 million high school.
Baseball is honestly, I think one of the closer ones to the top. Way more difficult than hockey, way closer to basketball. I think baseball is more difficult than it may appear. I think baseball, though, has the least athletic athletes in terms of the entire sport, but that sport is just so technically difficult, requires a lot of hand eye coordination, and I think hitting a baseball is fairly difficult in terms of like the hardest thing to do in sports, especially with the athletes of today. A lot of pitchers pitch 100, a lot of pitchers can pitch close to 100 or at 100 with movement. So I think that's pretty hard. But the only reason like why I think it's not at the top is really because, like I said, basketball there's only 12 people on the roster, and you have to be 6'4". And with baseball, it's like if you can, it's like with anything, if you dedicate your life to anything, you will become good at it. Especially if you already have natural abilities. Like if you're a great athlete and you day one of sports dedicated to hitting a baseball, you will become good at it. Like not in the sense that you're guaranteed to go pro, but you have a decent shot. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I think it's still not as difficult as basketball to go pro in.
Males in the U.S. The United States has clean data on high school sports participation, so we know this past year, a little over 478,000 of these boys played baseball. Jumping to the MLB, 72.2% of opening day rosters were from the U.S. We will weight this percentage against the 239 players that make their debuts each year, and multiply that number by 4 since we sampled 4 years of high school. So, just how many make it to the bigs? About 1 in every 693 high school baseball players will make it to the MLB.
These
For
odds
All-American
seem
males,
fairly
1 in every
too good.
13,026 will make it to the MLB.
That
Now to the less
makes
literal,
more sense.
but more lucrative version of football. What are the odds of making it to the NFL?
The most spectacular showcase the league has to offer.
This is what I'll say about football. Mind you, I am a college athlete myself. Granted, I do play JUCO, but I'm at like one of the best JUCOs in the world. I've played football all of my life, so I know a little bit about football personally. I think football has the best athletes out of all sport because that is the only sport where you will have a 6'4", 6'5", 350-pound human being run a 4.40. 4.840, I should say, not a 4.4. 4.4 is like a skill position, but it is the only sport where somebody at that size can run that fast. Jordan Davis, as an example, Philadelphia Eagles D tackle. That dude's 6'4", 350, and runs a 4.8. There's no other sport that demands that kind of athleticism except for football. Even at the linebacker position, you'll get a 6 foot demigod, 230-pound, 250-pound dude running a 4.4. Like, that's ridiculous. So I would say that football has the best athletes in the sport, easily, without a doubt. Just in terms of explosiveness, speed, ability to play other sports. But I don't think it is the hardest to get into. I think it's, to be honest with you, I think the NFL is probably, ugh, I don't know. It's hard to rank after the first, but it's in the top. It's top three in my opinion. That sport is so mentally demanding, physically demanding. You practice every single day to play one game a week, and you have to practice every single day. Um, that alone is an extremely difficult hump to get over. And as I said, I play college football myself, so I know a little bit about it for sure. But I wouldn't say it's the hardest. It's not. It's still not harder than basketball. The rosters are decently sized, and there's so many positions that you can get into the NFL that go unrecognized. Like there's special teams. Like for example, you could be a kicker, a long snapper, or even just a special teams player in general, like kickoff, kick return. So don't get me wrong, it's still extremely difficult to get into those positions, but it's just not the hardest. Like, for example, a lot of people in the NFL are 5'10. Obviously, it's extremely difficult to get into the league at 5'10, but there's still a large number of athletes that are 5'10 in the NFL versus basketball, where there's like one every 10 years, probably, So NFL is definitely top three, but it's still not taking a cake for me.
Football is the most popular high school sport for males in the United States. Between all forms of American football, over 1 million high schoolers play. Since you can't go to the NFL out of high school, probably for good reason, just for fun, let's look at how many of these will play college football. 77,204 will play some level of NCAA football. 228 rookies played in a game last year, and 96.3% of the league is American. Thus, we'll say 220 are from the United States per year on average. So, what are the odds of making it to the most valuable league in the world? 1 in every 1,211 high school football players will make it to the NFL. Looking at all males, 1 in every 10,117 will make it to the NFL. How about the newest major team sport? The one that started in a PE class a little over 100 years ago. At the high school level, a little over 537,000 boys play on a basketball team. And of those, 3.6% will play in college. That's 19,213 male college basketball players. Each year, about 93 rookies will debut in the top basketball league, the NBA. On average, 71 of them will be Americans. So, how difficult is it to make it to the NBA? 1 in every 1,880 high school basketball players will make it to the NBA. For all males, 1 in every 31,450 will play in the NBA.
I think that's the biggest, the hardest odds significantly so far in the video.
Looking at all our sports, basketball appears to be the most challenging to make it to the top. There is
I did not know that this video would also agree. That's actually insane.
much to be learned from all of these games, but I believe we can.
I just think if you really think about it, in the skill gap between high school to college, college to the NBA is unbelievable. There has been countless of, picks in the NBA, high first round picks that go from college to the NBA and they don't pan out. That's a huge reason as well why I think it's the hardest. And not only that, there's so many, like, for example, I made my high school basketball team really, like, honestly, very easily. Like, for example, if I go to open runs, I will at least be, like, if I go to a Lifetime, 24-hour fitness, whatever the case may be, I will at least be top 3, top 5 best people there at basketball. So I made my high school team very easily. But if I went to college and tried out for a team, I probably wouldn't even make the team. My high school team has a player in the NBA right now. So our team was good for sure. And I was on that team, like I said, with somebody in the NBA. Even a lot of people from my high school football team are in the NFL as well. So I think that's insane. Like I was on that team in high school easily, but I would not make a college tryout basketball. There's just no way. There's no way.
Learn perhaps the most from this last one, at least sociologically, and I want to show you why. And by the way, I put a lot of time, energy, and research into these videos, so if you're enjoying it, I'd really appreciate if you'd subscribe. To understand this, let's head back to the beginning. The year is 1890, and exactly one person is playing basketball. In fact, one is even aware of it because he invented it. By 1898, the game has caught on a little bit, at least locally. The first professional league is formed, the NBL. 6 teams play on chicken-wired courts. The game is far from global. Canada is playing it recreationally, but these teams are composed of just local Americans. Throughout the next few decades, the professional leagues struggled to stay afloat, and eventually the NBL merges with the NBA. This was important, but what was far more important was something dramatic that happened. 2 inventions that would transform not just basketball, but all of sports. Radio and television. With broadcasting and advertising capabilities, sports became an increasingly larger business, driving revenue and growing games like basketball, but profits weren't the only outcome. Far from it. In 1978, something monumental would occur, except this was not broadcasted. In fact, this went completely unnoticed, at least at the time. On a completely different continent, far, far away from the NBA, a slim teenager was busy playing goalie when a coach stopped him. He mentioned he should try a different sport where tall people have an advantage.
Malajuan.
Standing at 6'7", the Nigerian picked up the game quickly, and a few years later, a scout saw him and offered him a visit, an opportunity, all the way at a college in the United States. This was rare. To put it in perspective, this was so rare that the college didn't even pick up the kid at the airport. That belief would change.
The Houston Rockets select
as Hakeem,
#1 pick.
the Dream, would go on to absolutely dominate and become the first African-born player selected in the draft. He would not be the last.
Who's the basketball GOAT though? It's got to be LeBron, right? Easily. I just think, and this is with anything, over the generations, the athletes get better. And yeah, that's pretty much it. LeBron has been the pinnacle.
Welcome to Regal Cinemas.
I'm so confused. This video just turned into a cinematic experience.
And the whole thing started with a couple of peach baskets.
Wait, is that
This
Hakeem Olajuwon?
is Solomon Alabi.
That's not Hakeem Olajuwon.
Like Hakeem, he played in the NBA. Like Hakeem, he is from Nigeria. And like Hakeem, he is tall.
He is tall.
Really
like, you
tall.
see what I'm saying?
And just like Hakeem, he grew up playing football.
Were you a soccer player first? Yes.
The only basketball court they had wasn't really a court. It was made of sand. After players like Hakeem proved that there was talent all over the world, the NBA launched a program called Basketball Without Borders, a camp that has helped find
Bosh, Dwight
hundreds of
Howard,
international
Giannis.
players like Solomon.
I was praying I wish I can be like Hakeem Olajuwon.
Expanding the game to the edges of the earth.
Trailblazers select Arvydas Sabonis of the Soviet Union. Rick Smits of Mary. Dikembe Mutombo from Georgetown University. Michael Olowokandi.
Dirk Nowitzki from Würzburg, Germany.
Luol Deng from Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Joel Embiid. Nikola Jokic.
Nikola Jokic.
Luka Doncic. With the first pick in the 2023 NBA Draft, the San Antonio Spurs select
Victor Wembanyama.
Victor Wembanyama.
I think that this even goes to show even more how difficult it is to get to the NBA. There is world recruitment. And I think a lot of sports are getting to that, like football is as well, but it's still significantly less. Like in the NBA, there's dominance from players that are from around the world, and I think that makes it even more difficult. Not only are you competing with the people from the United States, you're competing with the athletes from everywhere. And I know soccer is like that, but I just know that the players from America aren't as good. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, but even for like football, the best players come from the United States. But now that we're seeing in basketball, like the dominance from around the world, it makes it even more difficult.
Nantar, France.
However, one might notice something interesting when looking at NBA players that grew up outside of North America. They are largely tall. NBA tall, solo tall. Just look at the top 30 players that weren't born in North America last year. Only one, Luka Doncic, was a guard, and he's 6'7".
What? Luka's 6'7"? No way, no way, no way. Are we gonna have to fact check that? Let's fact check that. Luka Doncic height. Luka Doncic. It says he's 6'6", 230. Like, bro. Luka at a guard is 6'6". I'm telling you, the NBA is the hardest to get into.
Are from the traditional guard. Furthermore, for the top 32 point guards last year, 29 were from the United States and 2 were from Canada. Only one grew up in a different country. Luka. Why aren't we seeing more solos at shorter positions? What's convenient about height is how straightforward of a measurement it is. And this is where basketball is both unique and extremely telling on the sports sociology front. You know height is important for the game of basketball. You probably don't know just how important it is. Let's take a look. Let's look at this positionally. We'll start with the tallest position, center, where the average NBA starter is 6'10" or taller without shoes. How rare is this? Well, using US CDC data, about 1 in every 111,425 males are this high.
That's
or taller.
unbelievable.
To visualize this, if we were to fill college football's largest stadium, the Big House, there would be about 1 NBA center on average in attendance. For someone like Solo, the odds are even more staggering. Only 1 in roughly 3 million US males are this height or taller. A couple notes. The US is taller than the average world height, and importantly, this is barefoot CDC measured height. not someone's self-reported height. Believe it or not, we tend to exaggerate this. At least males do. We'll look at each position per 100,000 males. At our next position,
Okay, on my physicals, like I've had 3 recent physicals in football, they all say I'm 5'10", 70 inches is what it says. But I'm probably like 5'9", honestly.
power forward, where the average barefoot height ranges from 6'7" to 6'10" for our starters, you'd expect to see about 51 or 52 men per 100,000. At small forward, you would see about 411 males between 6'5" and 6'7". Moving to shooting guard, where the average NBA height was 6'3" to 6'4", you would expect to see 2,240 men this height. And what about our final position? Point guard. This is Rob. I played with Rob in college. Rob is a D1 point guard. He is very good, 5'10". He's taller than the average American male. But in basketball, he is one of many. The average NBA point guard was 6'2" without shoes, and since a 5'10" guy can't exactly apply to be a power forward or center, that means Rob is competing with, well, over 97% of the population. Of the 100,000 on attendance at the Big House, 97,295 of them would be competing for one position. So if you're a 6'2" or shorter high school hoops player in the U.S., about 1 in every 9,206 of you will make it to the NBA. The margin for making it to the NBA is razor thin at any position. The margin for making it as a point guard is thinner, nearing the getting struck by lightning odds. Thinner. This explains something that is often wrongfully discussed. Why are there so many good guards? Or rather, why are there so few good centers? There's Jokic and Embiid, a sharp cliff, then a few solid players. Then the Mariana Trench. And then everybody else. Despite a male population of 4 billion, there are so few that fit the center mold, we find a small sample size, which often leads to an increase in variance. But this doesn't explain why we don't see more international guards in the NBA. Clearly, there are far more people in the world than there are in the US. Where are they? Here's something to think about. Would Ronaldo be kicking a ball if he was born in the US? Would Kyrie and Fox still be point guards if they were born in Brazil?
Nah, they would
Probably
play
not.
soccer.
The more average athletes, at least in terms of height, are choosing their cultural sports. For most of the world, that sport is football. The outliers, like Hakeem and Solo, even if they started playing football, they're getting pulled aside and nudged with a, hey, I think you should try this. And with good reason. How many Kevin Durants did Kevin Durant compete against? Probably less Chris Pauls than Chris Paul had to beat out. Basketball is a paradoxically unique sport. It is both globally inclusive and discriminatory. You have to be tall, at least if you want to make the top league. In truth, you also need another trait, even more selective. You have to be long. If height is the first measurement an NBA scout is concerned with, the second is a player's wings.
Like, okay, look. Ja Morant is 6'1", right? Which is obviously relatively short for the NBA. But look what he's doing. His head is at the rim and his arm is almost at the top of the backboard. He has to have that amount of athleticism to even get a chance to get in the NBA. A chance at 6'1". It's unbelievable.
The average male has a wingspan that is about 1 to 2% longer than their height, depending on your source. The average NBA player, their wingspan is 6.3% longer than their height. For reference, my wingspan ratio is normal. I am 6'2" without shoes. My wingspan is 6'3". John Wall was the #1 selection in Solomon's draft. However, his wingspan is 6'9" and a quarter.
Insane.
Meaning he plays more like
In basketball, you just need to have so many anomalies to even have a chance. Like that guy that he was talking about earlier, his friend that he played in school with, who was 5'10" and went D1, he was probably insane, like insane to go D1 at 5'10", and even at that, he probably didn't even have a chance to go to the NBA. Like when it comes to the NBA, and that people don't realize as well, is how good they really are. If if they went to open runs, for example, they wouldn't miss. They could be 100% contested, hand in their face like this. They're still making it. Um, I told you guys I have an NBA player like that was on my high school basketball team. Um, if you guys know who Josh Christopher is, Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs, all those guys in the NBA, we played against them, and I had to personally guard Josh Christopher. I was a football player, and typically, like, if you're a football player, you're good on defense. So my job in a tournament was to guard Josh Christopher. You know, I'm going to see if I can find some clips and then I'll put them in here. When I tell you, he greened everything in my face. He would literally, it doesn't matter, get me in the post. And I was strong, so it's not like he could really back me down. He was much bigger than me in height, but he couldn't back me down that well, right? But he would get me in the post, and I'm not even kidding. Kobe Bryant fadeaway from anywhere, and I would jump, contest it, literally hand in the face like this. Green, green, coming down the court, 3-point, hand in the face, green. It doesn't matter. They're simply just that good. And not only that, when it comes to height as well, like for me, for example, I'm pretty quick, pretty fast. I have a great handle. I can get open. But when you face people that are 6'6" with 7-foot wingspans, you can get 2 feet of space on a step back and go for a shot. They're gonna contest it still because they're that long, that athletic, and that tall. They're gonna literally still get back and guard your shot and contest it. And for somebody like me who isn't a NBA caliber basketball player, obviously, contests bother my shot. Somebody like Josh Christopher, who's in the NBA, contests don't bother their shot. You can't do anything about it. It's going in regardless. And that is just ridiculous.
A 6'6" regular human. This is a crucial distinction. This need for length withers our pool of potential down even further. You can just see it in certain players.
Wait.
Guys
What's
that get more
Rajon?
deflections
What is
or just
Rajon
kind of
Wando's wingspan?
This need for length withers our pool of potential
Height 6'1". Wingspan 6'9".
down even further.
Okay.
You can just see it in certain players. Guys that get more
6'9",
deflections or just kind of
7'5",
dunk easier than the
6'2",
rest of us.
7 foot.
Their height,
Like, okay, you guys have seen my videos, like where I dunk on my shorts and stuff on the shorter hoop. You guys see, like, I'm pretty athletic, but I'm 5'10", probably with a 5. My wingspan's probably 5'11". I don't even know. These guys their wingspans are literally a whole foot bigger than them. It's ridiculous.
is hidden in
6'6",
plain
7'3" wingspan.
So, what can we learn from all this?
Like that guy that you just showed again, his buddy. His wingspan's probably 5'10". He's probably 5'10" by 5'10".
Well, undeniably, some sports are more competitive, at least the odds of making it to the top. One could argue that a Canadian teenage hockey player is 3 times as likely to make it to the NHL as an American high school player is to make it to the NBA. Overall, in every sport, athletes face incredible odds, at least if you view this as the point of playing sports. Growing up, my safe place was filled with dreams of playing at the highest level, and I idolized those that did. In a roundabout way, many of us are tricked into believing that this is Eden, being that one marble that is the marvel. But this is a mirage. While we can love watching and playing sports, we all run out of talent in some way at some point in time. That is not a character defect. The pinnacle is not the point. The odds are only against you if you view it that way.
All right, Chad. That was actually a really, really good video. There was a little cinematics in the middle of it. Good video. It didn't cover all the sports, obviously. There's combat sports, UFC, boxing, and those are very, very, very difficult to reach pro level. Don't get me wrong, but I think with combat sports, there's a lot less competition. A lot of people go into combat sports because I posted a short and I was like, "What's the hardest sport?" And a lot of people put the combat sports, but I think most people use combat sports just for personal reasons. Just being able to defend yourself. Most people don't go into it with the intentions of reaching the top level. Don't get me wrong, like I said, it is difficult to go to the UFC, go to the top tier boxing league or whatever the case may be. But I think that sport's a huge, huge mental game. And I think it's you can definitely get to that level easier than getting into the NBA. Let's see, they didn't talk about golf. Golf, I would say, is extremely difficult. I think golf is the most difficult to be the best ever at, is what I'll say. I don't think it's necessarily the most difficult to get um, to whatever the Masters or whatever the top achievement for golf is, but I think it is the most difficult in terms of being the greatest ever. That sport is just so technical. I'm awful at it. What other things are there? Tennis. I'm sure that's difficult, but I think basketball easily takes the cake. And I was actually really surprised that the video said that as well. I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, chat, that's the end of the video. One last thing. If you are somebody who is younger, like maybe in high school or younger, or even about to go to college, whatever the case may be, and you play sports, don't let this discourage you. Anything can happen to anybody. Anybody can make it to the top. Anybody can make it to the top of anything. And if those numbers are kind of scaring you, don't let it scare you. Always chase your dreams, no matter what it is. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, and trust me, listen to me. I know I'm not like the oldest person in the world or have the most success under my belt, but me being 24, I can tell you anything. You can do anything. Anything can happen to anybody, and you can reach your dreams, whether that be NFL, NBA, whatever the case may be, or even if it's outside of a sport. Don't let the numbers scare you, because everything is competitive. It doesn't matter what you want to do. If you want to go work at McDonald's, there's millions of people that want to apply. If you want to go to the NBA, if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be in the dental field, everything is competitive. Choose one thing, dedicate your life to it, and if you fail and you don't want to try again at that thing, try something else. But not only that, chat, if you are playing sports, and believe me when I say this, and trust me when I say this, because me being 24, I am the oldest player on my JUCO team, okay? Because I didn't go to school out of high school, I worked. So learn this from me. Of course, my dream is to go to the NFL. Of course, my dream is to go D1. But to be honest with you, neither of those will happen. But understand that the beauty in the sport is beyond that. Being on a team, making friends, being disciplined, and learning and enjoying from the sport it's way more important than destroying yourself trying to get to a professional level. Obviously, I know, I understand. It's my goal too. I train every single day to go to the NFL. I train every single day just to go D1 with no guarantee of that, with the smallest odds of that actually happening. But I promise you, and listen to me being 24, the oldest player probably in JUCO, that the beauty of football and the beauty of sports in general is beyond that. Enjoy your time playing a sport. Enjoy your time being an athlete. Enjoy your time with your friends, making memories, and enjoy the hard times. Enjoy puking after conditioning, enjoy waking up at 6 a.m. for lifts, because I can promise you, I've lived both lives. I lived the adult life of having to go to work every day, paying bills, paying rent, paying for my car, paying insurance, paying for groceries, all of these things. I've lived through both lives, and I promise you, being an athlete, whether you don't even get on the field or you play every single down and you're exhausted, that life comes to an end sooner than you expect. So if you find yourself dreading your sport right now, hating your sport right now, finish it up, you know, live it out, because I promise you when it ends, you're probably going to miss it. Okay. Like for me personally, when I stopped playing in high school, and I had to go live on my own and do my thing, I never really thought about football. I really didn't. I didn't really miss it. I was happy with the way I ended things. But after a while, I really became sick of working, sick of being an adult. And I was like, I need a reset. I need to go play football again. And it really, living that life of working opened my eyes to how beautiful it is just to play football. And like I said, I didn't really miss football that much. But and when I'm done playing football, if this is my last year, this is my second year at JUCO, I probably won't miss it too much. You know, life goes on, but I can genuinely appreciate the beauty and the luxury that it is to really play a sport and not have to worry about going to work, you know? So just remember, chat, just appreciate your ability to play your sport, because being an athlete in general is so rare. Having the gifted ability to have a 30-inch vertical, to being able to even run a 4.840. Most people can't even jump and touch the rim, touch the backboard, or even touch the net. Most people will never understand the feeling of catching a football and running. They won't even understand the feeling of bench pressing, power cleaning. So just appreciate what you have, even if you don't make it to your ultimate goal, the ultimate pinnacle. Understand that that's not the entire point of playing your sport. Chat, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and continue to tune into the videos. We are never stopping. This is easily the most favorite thing I've ever done in my life, recording and uploading to YouTube, whether it's vlogs, reaction videos, or anything, shorts, you know what I'm saying? So I don't see myself stopping ever until I'm probably in the grave. So chat, there you guys have it. The hardest sport to go pro in is basketball. If you have a different opinion, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear some responses, some personal experiences, and yeah, any type of feedback, chat. Hopefully the mic volume is better. I know a lot of people were saying stuff about that in the comments, chat. But I love you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in again. Life of an Ant. Peace.